Welcome back everybody to KENAN TV. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the Conor McGregor vs Jorge Masvidal potential matchup in the near future. With McGregor's impressive 40-second knockout victory over Cowboy Donald Cerrone at the welterweight division, one could only assume how long it will take for Conor McGregor and Jorge Masvidal to scrap it out. So, if and when they do, let me explain to you guys how Conor McGregor can defeat Jorge Masvidal in this video. I will also make another video where I talk about Masvidal defeating Conor McGregor, so be sure to subscribe to stay notified for that one. Now with that being said, let's jump right into the video. When we are taking a look at this fight and this matchup, before UFC 246, many people were just under the assumption that Conor McGregor was just going to be way too small for the 170-pound division, disregarding the fact that Jorge Masvidal himself was a former lightweight himself. Now, in terms of height, reach, size difference, I think they are going to be virtually weighing the same. In terms of height and reach, there's not going to be that much of a difference, and really I think that the difference in size is being really blown out of proportion. If the matchup were to be Darren Till versus Conor McGregor at 170, well sure, then it becomes a way different type of a fight. You have to take into consideration how big Darren Till is, how much he has to cut weight and this and that. But for Jorge Masvidal, that is not really the case. I mean, Jorge walks around like he has to barely cut weight, if any weight at all. And the same can be said for Conor McGregor. So in terms of size, in terms of weight, I think they're going to be virtually evenly matched to begin with. Now with that clarified, let's look at them in terms of their nature. What type of a fighter are they?
I thank the Lord for my many blessings. Don't stress and keep a vest for protection from the barrel of a Smith & Wesson.
Looking at Jorge Masvidal, we have a fighter who is, I would have to say, leaning towards the calmer, patient, same tempo output type of a fighter. And if you're going to take a look at Conor McGregor, he is a very explosive fighter who comes out 100% from the gate and who starts to decline from there. And if you're going to look at Jorge Masvidal, the graph would really start from the bottom and then it would slowly build up, right? This is how you could really sum it up. Now, stylistically, Conor McGregor comes out of the gate firing. He is just ready to go and have a dogfight. He just goes in there and makes you scrap with him. Jorge Masvidal, on the other hand, sure, he has opened up fast in his last 3 fights and came out with a big attack, but that was it. After you threw that attack or faked the attack, he went back to a pretty slow build up into the fight himself. So Conor McGregor will probably take the opening of the fight by storm, and it will probably be going into his favor. Now, given the fact that Jorge Masvidal is a fighter who is an orthodox fighter, Conor McGregor is going to yet again have that advantage where he can have the way better jab placement. So he's going to have a way better time at neutralizing the opponent's jab by just having a good feel for it, having a good touch for it, and blocking its trajectory. Why this is really important is just because of the fact that Jorge Masvidal is such a jab-heavy fighter. I mean, the guy has arguably one of the best pure boxing in the entire division. Just so fluid, very good at setting up combinations, very snappy 1-2s. Just overall is a way better, well-rounded boxer than most of the division really is. However, though, this is not pure boxing, obviously. So for Conor McGregor to immediately come out of the gate and take care of Jorge Masvidal's jab is going to be key. But it's not going to be the only factor that will neutralize Jorge Masvidal. In my opinion, Jorge Masvidal is not a fighter Conor McGregor can 100% neutralize. I think he can take away and break down certain tools that he has coming from the jab side, but in general, Jorge Masvidal will still be in the fight, even though he gets his jab taken care of him. Now, this, however, is a very big game changer. Conor McGregor coming straight out of the gate and pressuring the opponent. This is what McGregor is all about. Masvidal, on the other hand, he has shown that he is willing to take the outside and he is willing to get pressured. Now, how much of it is actual willingness to get pressured, or just how much is it really going to play into the factor of he is being pressured, thus he knows how to survive in that situation? I think it is a mix of both, but I do believe that Jorge Masvidal favors being pressured than actually pressuring. Because taking a look at Jorge Masvidal's offensive game, it is not all too shiny. I think the best moments Jorge Masvidal has is when he has deflected all of his opponent's shots and he's starting to see the patterns in them, thus creating and finding his own perfect opening to shoot in for his beautiful switch left hook and whatever it may be, things of that nature. Jorge Masvidal is a fighter who has an answer to most of his opponent's questions, but he doesn't really pose many questions himself. That's the way that you can really sum up his style. But that is a really good style to have. However, it is not going to be a favorable style fighting somebody like Conor McGregor, in the sense of there's only so much time that you have in a Conor McGregor fight before a very big strike, a knockout punch is coming at your way. And if all that you're doing is evade and then come back with small time replies, Conor McGregor is not going to feel too threatened by that, and he will continue to do so. And it is really only a matter of time when Conor McGregor has you backed up and is starting to unload on you. Now, Masvidal has a couple other tricks up his sleeve. Now, obviously, Masvidal has tremendous head movement. I would say that out of all the opponents Conor has faced, Jorge is definitely the best that has the head movement. Pair that up with very light footwork, Conor McGregor is probably going to have a very mobile target early on in the fight, but that won't take away from the fact that Conor McGregor will be able to come forward and be the pressure fighter, be the aggressor. Now, for example, if you're going to compare Khabib Nurmagomedov and Jorge Masvidal, I would say Khabib has been a lot more inclined on moving, whereas Jorge Masvidal has been very inclined to move, stop, shoot, fire a shot, then continue on with the movement. So if there is going to be a fighter where there is still going to be an opening for Conor McGregor to reply with, it is most certainly going to be Jorge Masvidal. Because this is really a weird fight. Conor McGregor, he's a fighter who is very good at replying and countering as he's coming forward. He doesn't really like to force openings, and this is really the same thing with Jorge Masvidal. But the difference is Jorge Masvidal cannot really come forward and fight the same way that Conor McGregor can. He doesn't have the, let's just say, nuances, like for example the teep kicks, the feints, the left high kick, the jumping knees, things of that nature, to where the final blow, which is the left hand shot, can find its way clearly onto the target. When you take a look at Jorge Masvidal, there is no final blow in his arsenal. He is a relatively powerful fighter, but he does not really possess knockout power coming from one shot when he's still being backed up in that sense, right? Because if Jorge Masvidal can fully lunge his body into a strike, that is a definite knockout punch. But in general, there is not a certain strike that can always creep up on you. It has to be a shot that has to first load itself in. It has to really force itself in, and it has to load up essentially, right? That is really what I mean with Jorge Masvidal. For example, if Conor McGregor can, tap and then shoot the left hand in, there's always going to be some serious sting behind those shots, just the way that his body is structured. It's just very, very twitch heavy, right? That is why he can generate such quick power in such a short distance in such little time. So for Masvidal himself to get the fight into the middle of the octagon, or to a spot where he can have Conor McGregor be less effective, which would really be when Conor McGregor is being backed up himself. If he can have Conor in that position, then he can start to worry about, okay, how can I get in, set up a couple strikes, and then land the final big blow, which I'm going to really put all my weight behind. However, that is a really big task for Jorge Masvidal. Conor McGregor rarely gets backed up unless he gets tired, and right now we're going to be focusing on why Conor McGregor beats Jorge Masvidal. So in the video where I talk about Jorge beating Conor, I will dive a lot more into detail how Jorge can do this. So be sure to subscribe to stay notified if you haven't already. However though, coming back to the point, for Jorge to back up Conor, it is going to be very hard to do, but not impossible, but still very, very hard. You have to look at it like this. When the fight starts off, Conor McGregor and Jorge square up, right? And Conor McGregor will probably come out very fast, and he will try to look to back Jorge Masvidal up, and which he will probably do and will be successful in. Once he has him backed up, there are a couple of options that Jorge Masvidal likes to do, right? As he's coming forward, Conor McGregor, Jorge Masvidal likes to reply with a side kick to the lead leg of the southpaw opponent. Now, this is a tool that is very useful in the middle of the octagon, and especially when you're trying to walk down and feint the opponent as you're coming forward yourself. Now, there is a big difference in coming forward yourself and utilizing this kick, and having it as a defensive mechanism to keep your opponent away from you. When you kick as your opponent is coming forward, you're at a very big risk of getting that kick smothered and losing your footing and really the space that you set for yourself in the octagon. You will slowly get more backed up and more boxed in, and once you're boxed in, it is going to be very hard for you to get away from Conor McGregor. Now, Jorge Masvidal, he is a very good fighter at dodging the left straight. However, none of those opponents who threw a left straight at Jorge Masvidal were Conor McGregor, and there is a really big difference in how Conor McGregor sets up his left hand shot compared to Darren Till, for example. Darren Till was a very big brute in the way that he threw the left hand shot. Obviously, Darren Till is a huge welterweight. He's a full-fledged middleweight that may potentially also be able to fight at light heavyweight if he desired to. But coming back to Darren Till, the way that he fights and the way that he fought Jorge Masvidal was really at a manner where he was very eager to get him out of there. From the opening of the fight, the first left hand that he threw was able to land and it was able to drop him. Now this is a scenario that will be very alike in how the Conor McGregor fight will look. Coming forward immediately, Conor McGregor as a southpaw will probably immediately take care of Jorge Masvidal's jab, and when Jorge Masvidal has his jab taken care of, he becomes a very passive fighter. Even against Nate Diaz, when Nate was able to have a good amount of success at hand fighting, Jorge Masvidal became very passive and defensive minded, and really the only option that he had at that point was either to slip to the right side and then come back with his own right hook, or to throw a big body kick, which really just always landed on Nate Diaz. And with Nate Diaz, the body shots are obviously going to be a viable option, and also the leg kick, so that doesn't come as a surprise. But with Conor McGregor, it is a different story, because with Nate Diaz, there was not really the same amount of pressure that Conor McGregor presents. The way that Nate Diaz comes forward is just he comes forward and he starts throwing. They are predominant hooking shots, round shots, so they're not going to be shots that will keep Nate Diaz grounded, because Nate Diaz always likes to walk into his shots. He smothers his own work, and that is why Jorge Masvidal was able to evade most of Nate Diaz's shots and just get out of the pocket and reset the fight in the middle of the octagon. And physically speaking, there's not really so much tension on offensive and forward movement from Nate Diaz, so that is why also Jorge Masvidal was able to stay grounded himself a lot throughout the fight. And this is why exactly against Darren Till, Jorge Masvidal was backed up for the majority of the fight. Because Darren did a great job at hand fighting and taking care of Jorge Masvidal's jab himself, it really took a long while for Jorge Masvidal to evade most of Darren Till's shots and start finding patterns. As soon as he found those patterns and he started to have a lot of success with his head movement, he was able to reset the fight in the middle of the octagon, and that is where he started to have a lot more success. And because Darren Till is a fighter who really pulls back on a lot of his shots, if you're going to take a look at Darren Till's defensive mechanisms and defensive strategies, the guy really always relied on his massive size to really get himself away from trouble. If he saw his opponent come at him, he would simply post up on the opponent and pull his head way back, and usually he would be safe from that. But because Jorge Masvidal had a lot of answers to what Darren Till was doing himself, after a certain point, Jorge Masvidal just saw through it all, and he saw those patterns, he saw those openings, and that is how he was able to set up that big hook that knocked him out. Now, in the process of that hook, Jorge Masvidal switched stances, and this is what you will see Jorge Masvidal do quite a bit. Jorge Masvidal is one of the few fighters that can fight in both stances. However, though, his southpaw stance is not as strong as his orthodox stance. Thus, his jab will not be as snappy and as quick as it would be in his regular orthodox stance. However, though, Jorge Masvidal is still very dangerous when he switches stances. He usually does this to set up a big left overhand like he landed on Darren Till, for example. So Conor McGregor cannot really consider Jorge Masvidal neutralized even when he switches stances. He's still a very dangerous fighter, which I will go into detail in the video where I talk about Masvidal winning himself. So Conor McGregor being a southpaw and having great success with hand fighting, I would have to believe that in this matchup, once again, I think Conor McGregor will be winning the hand fighting exchanges and will have a way more dominant placement of his own jab. Now, Jorge Masvidal, when he's being backed up and he's fully backed up against the cage, he's a fighter who will be very explosive. He will duck under shots. He will do everything in his power to get away from that cage. He doesn't like to be pinned, and I don't really think anybody does fighting Conor McGregor. However, though, Jorge Masvidal has a tremendous slip right hook that is really a big game changer, especially fighting these big and offensive-minded southpaws. However, catching Conor McGregor with one of those shots will be a very big task. I don't really think Jorge Masvidal can really land that big slip right hand, but if there's a guy to do that, it is more certainly going to be Jorge Masvidal. But with Conor McGregor being a very distance-heavy minded fighter, it seems to me personally very odd that Conor McGregor would be able to overcommit to a shot that will be very telegraphed for Jorge Masvidal to counter. But it is most certainly a shot that he can land when he's not backed up against the cage, because at that point when he's backed up against the cage, Jorge Masvidal will start moving his head frantically, looking for a way out, and from there Conor McGregor is a master at getting you to react before he throws, and then he will counter your reaction with a big devastating fight-ending shot. For example, if he has the better jab placement, he can flick the jab, make Jorge Masvidal duck to Conor McGregor's left side, and Conor can bring a left high kick up, catch Jorge Masvidal, maybe stun him, maybe just set him up to make a move to the right side so Conor McGregor can set up his left hand shots. We just don't know, but these are definitely all options that Conor McGregor will definitely utilize, and I don't really believe Jorge Masvidal will be ready for that. Sure, he was able to deal against Nate Diaz's pressure when he was backed up against the cage, or Darren Till, you know, but it is really Conor McGregor who really stands out from that crowd and is just on another level when he's in that realm. So yeah, all in all, I do believe Conor McGregor will have his way early on in the fight. He will come forward and he will back up Jorge Masvidal, and I believe once Jorge Masvidal is backed up, it will be a very, very fragile moment in the fight for Jorge Masvidal. He can either get dropped, hurt, finished, whatever it may be, but the likelihood of him getting countered, the likelihood of him getting tagged is very high. He is a fighter who doesn't really like to move his head too much when he's backed up Jorge Masvidal. That's why he can eat a lot of left hand shots. So if Conor McGregor can fully press him against the cage, that is where he can definitely get him really hurt, and that is where Conor McGregor can get him finished. Now, like I said, Jorge Masvidal has tremendous head movement and footwork. When he has the room to move, Jorge Masvidal will move. But Conor McGregor has such great abilities at really boxing the opponent in. For example, if Conor McGregor is coming forward and Jorge Masvidal starts to really circle towards Conor McGregor's left side, usually Conor McGregor doesn't like it when you circle towards his left side, and he will really, the reason why he doesn't like to fight in that manner where the opponent's coming too much to his left side is because he likes to fully extend into the left hand shot. He will put his weight into it, he will turn his hips, he will turn his shoulders completely, and he will have a perfect line, and that is why the left hand shot is so powerful, because he can just fully extend it. If he only has to really work with a hook that Masvidal walks into, it is not going to have the same power. That is why, for example, if the opponent is moving a bit too much to the left side, he will throw a left high kick, and that will make the opponent a lot more focused on, okay, if I move a bit too much to this side, he's going to hit me with a left high kick or a jumping knee, things of that nature. And if Jorge Masvidal starts to move a bit too much to the right side, then Conor McGregor will spin around and hit him with a heel kick that will then make him think about going to the right side, right? So going to the left side or right side, he's going to get a kick coming at him. But really, the right side is a side where he only has to worry about one kick, right? It is either a spinning back kick to the body or a spinning heel kick, and that's about it, right? It's just really one shot at a time that you have to worry about Conor McGregor. So for Jorge Masvidal, the most ideal way for him to get distance and, you know, free himself from Conor McGregor's pressure is if he can go towards Conor's right side and avoid getting kicked and then resetting the fight like that. But obviously a very, very hard task. And that's why Conor McGregor is so good. For example, against Dennis Siver, Dennis was going a lot to Conor McGregor's left. What did Conor do? Jumping knees, left high kicks that really forced Dennis Siver to go towards Conor McGregor's right, which really set him up perfectly for the left hand shot. That is why Dennis Siver got caught, for example. So for Jorge Masvidal, I do see him getting, you know, clipped with a left high kick, especially against the fence. If he starts moving his head a bit too much early on, Conor McGregor can get a good read on it, and hopefully for Conor McGregor, he can get Jorge Masvidal out of there. Now, Jorge Masvidal is a very tough fighter. I don't really see him getting knocked out cold, but if he can get dropped by Conor McGregor, Conor is a tremendous finisher, and I do believe that Conor McGregor can finish him. If there's one guy to finish Jorge Masvidal, it is most certainly going to be Conor McGregor himself. So in the end, I think the main thought that you can take away from this fight is that Conor McGregor likes to come forward and that Jorge Masvidal likes to be on the outside. And that is not really the best tendency to have fighting Conor McGregor, because it doesn't matter how much you like to fight on the outside, you're still gonna get pressured by Conor McGregor, and that is just an entire different ball game. If he gets backed up early on and he takes a bait and does an overreaction, maybe ducks in a bit too deep, and Conor McGregor gets a read on this, starts to bait this out of him, he can get set up with a big left hand shot, big high kick, big flying knee, whatever it may be, but something big will definitely come out of that in that first round from Conor McGregor. And for right now, I believe if Conor McGregor is going to win that fight, it has to come in the very first round by way of TKO, and it has to come very early, because Jorge Masvidal will start to gain success and he will slowly get into the fight. But like I said, the way these two fights, and by nature how they are designed to fight, they just play in one another's favor. It is going to be a big storm that Jorge Masvidal has to weather early on to get himself into the fight. That's just how I see this fight playing out. But if he can do that, get himself in the second round, third round, fourth round, things may start to change, because then he can start to incorporate his tremendous clinch work, his takedowns, his body kicks, things of that nature. So definitely Jorge Masvidal is going to be a very tough fight, and a lot more of a tougher fight than Cowboy Donald Cerrone was, that is for sure. However though, leave in the comment section down below who you guys think will win in this matchup, Conor McGregor or Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. But as always, as I like to say, in the end, only time will tell what will truly happen. For now, I have been Kenan from Kenan KTV, signing off. Later.